What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to yet another video. Today I decided to talk about how to get back to the gym once it opens, once Walhalla opens the doors for us warriors.
This is Sparta!
That sounded cool. Anyways, I thought about this for a bit and there are really a lot of details, factors that define this, but I really am going to try to generalize everything and simplify it so that the video is as always interesting and comprehensible at 100% to everybody. So without further ado, let's just dive into the video. So before we see how to get back to the gym, let's firstly identify what happens to our body once we can't train anymore, and if you have been training at home, what happens when your intensity of training goes down significantly. The first thing I want to mention is nerve de-adaptation. If you don't know this already, when you are training in the gym, and of course not only, your central nervous system plays an extremely important and vital role in this. And of course not only, but extremely important in this one too. When you work out, it's not only your muscles that adapt to the weights and the motion of the exercise, but also your nerves. And thanks to nerve adaptation, we can perfect our exercises form and thus build some very high quality muscle the proper way. The proper way meaning that we are not putting our joints through all the pressure and intensity of the exercise, but instead our muscles, which is really what we want. But then what happens is that when we can't train anymore, our nerve adaptation slowly but surely fades away. Which means that when we get back to the gym and start training, it's not only the gym, but let's say football, when we get back to the field, we and our nerves feel confused, and this way our whole body shakes like crazy. And this is particularly for the gym. If you do a bench press, for example, and you haven't done a bench press for a while, your body is going to be shaking like wild and it's going to be really unpleasant. But leave that awkward shaking aside. The real problem comes when we go back to training and we use the same weights and the same intensity, and this way we are putting ourselves in a very high risk of a very serious injury. Now you can see how many negative effects this nerve de-adaptation has, and now I want to suggest to anybody out there, whether they've been training at home during this quarantine or not, I'd suggest you to go back to the gym and to your usual training routine gradually, because this way you will prevent most injuries whatsoever, of course, if you are training properly. But don't go back to the gym with the same intensity and the same weights immediately, because this way you are 90% prone to injure yourself really seriously. And this is something you don't want, because then you will be out of the gym for more than 2 months most likely, and it won't be due to a virus or anything like that, and the feeling that everybody is going to the gym and you are not is going to kill you from the inside. Now the second thing that happens after you stop training is muscle de-adaptation. Now muscle de-adaptation always accompanies nerve de-adaptation, and they both have similarly negative effects on you. And the fact is that when you go back to the gym or to any training, you are going to feel more or less weaker than you were before you had to take that break. And that is more than fine. Don't worry and allow your body and yourself some time to go back to your usual training regime, and you'll soon be back on the treadmill of progress and success. Now a few key takeaways from what I just said is that you shouldn't go back to training with the same weights and the same intensity after you've taken a long break as with the quarantine situation, because this way you are putting yourself in a very high risk of a serious and severe injury. Also, this makes a lot of sense by itself, but you are going to be feeling more or less weaker when you go back to the gym after a break like this. And that is more than fine. Just don't think that you can lift as heavy as you did before, because you may do that. There is a very high probability that you will be able to lift just as heavy as you did before you started your break, but a fact is that this way, again, you are putting yourself in very high risk of a severe injury. Now what I just said applies to everybody, no matter whether they've been training at home or not during this quarantine. But now I'd like to divide you into two groups: the people who have persevered and trained during this quarantine, respect, and the people who decided that they want to be lazy and not do anything during this quarantine. You little squishy. If you have been training during this quarantine, great for you. Respect again. Now the only thing you have to do is go back to the gym without making any significant changes to your regime whatsoever. But again, you will need to go back to the gym and gradually increase your weights to where they were before you started your break, because otherwise, again, severe injury incoming. And I suggest you to lift light and with low intensity for the first 2 weeks of your recovery period. What have you been doing during this quarantine? If the reason you've not been training isn't that you've been chasing your dreams, then imagine I'm your angry mama and I'm going to waste 45 minutes of your life with my vicious words. Kidding. If you've not been training, I'd recommend you to go back to the gym as the people who have, but you need to make some more significant changes to your training regime. Of course, the lower intensity of training and the lower weights still apply to you. That makes absolute sense, but I'd really recommend you to go into a full body workout split. With this split, you are going to be training each muscle group every day with relatively low intensity, and this way you will prevent injuries and also very bad muscle soreness. And by the way, the last thing I want to mention is that the full body workout recommendation still applies to the people who have been training during this quarantine. It's just not mandatory if you don't like it, whereas for the people who have not been training, it is absolutely obligatory. Yes, I'm using some very complex words today. I know, Mom, I'm proud of me too. Alright guys, that was it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Of course, it was simple, it was relatively short, which is not always happening, but this time it was relatively short. I hope you understood everything. If you've got any questions, as always, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll answer them as soon as possible. Alright guys, if you like the video, smack the like button, I really appreciate this. Subscribe to my channel for more and turn on the little bell so you can see my upcoming videos in the future. And with all that said, stay healthy, stay positive, learn, enjoy, grow, and I'll see you in the next one.